I've worked in hospice for years, and I've seen more families through the end of life than I can count. Each case is unique, different illnesses, different homes, different ways families cope. But some moments stay with you forever. One of those moments was a private home hospice case I was assigned to. The patient was an elderly man in his late 80s. He'd been living with advanced heart failure, and after several hospitalizations, his family chose comfort care at home. That meant no more interventions, no more endless tests or ICU stays, just managing symptoms and keeping him as peaceful as possible. Home hospice has its own rhythm. We coordinate medications, bring in equipment like oxygen tanks and hospital beds, and provide teaching to the family on what to expect as the body begins to shut down. That evening, I'd done my routine assessment, checked his oxygen saturation, monitored his respirations, and titrated his morphine for shortness of breath. His extremities were cool, his pulse irregular and faint. The signs were clear that he was entering his final stretch. Families often ask me, how long? And while we can never give exact answers, we guide them through what's happening in real time. The home was filled with family, grown children, spouses, even grandchildren drifting in and out. There was food in the kitchen that no one was really eating, the kind of spread neighbors drop off when they don't know what else to do. In hospice, the atmosphere isn't always sadness. Sometimes it's heavy, sometimes there's laughter, sometimes both. That night, the family was quiet, gathered in the living room and around the bed. Some prayed, others just sat in silence, waiting. The house was dim, the kind of dim where only a single lamp is left on in the corner. The man's breathing was shallow, punctuated by long pauses. His children knew it was close. It was late, maybe around 11 p.m., when it happened. The family and I were sitting in the living room, just outside the bedroom where the man lay. We weren't talking much, just listening to the cadence of his breaths. And then, through the stillness, we heard it, a little girl's voice, faint at first, but clear, soft, almost like a lullaby. She was singing, just a few notes, gentle, rhythmic, the kind of sound a child makes to soothe herself. We froze. Everyone in that room heard it. The man's eldest son whispered, "Did you hear that?" I nodded. Another daughter clutched her husband's arm. We listened harder. The voice seemed to drift from the bedroom, though when I stood to check, no one was there but the patient. The singing stopped the moment I stepped inside, as if it had only been meant for those waiting outside. It was then one of the daughters began to cry. She told me their family had lost a little girl decades earlier, her younger sister, who had died at age 6, from meningitis. The man lying in that bed was her father. The son whispered. That was her voice. No one argued. No one tried to explain it away. For the family, the connection was immediate and undeniable. For me as a nurse, I can't put it in medical terms. All I know is that every one of us in that house heard it, clear as day. The rest of the night passed in a hush. The family drew closer to the bedside, some of them holding hands, others sitting in silence. There was a reverence in the air that hadn't been there before, almost as if they felt their father wasn't going to make that final journey alone. By dawn, his breathing slowed further. His face relaxed, the lines of pain smoothing away. Surrounded by his children, he took one last breath, calm, unhurried, and he was gone. There was grief, yes, but also something else. The family wasn't just mourning, they were remembering that their father had been reunited with the daughter he'd lost so long ago. The night's strange singing wasn't seen as frightening, it was a comfort. Medically, I can't explain what we heard. There was no child in that house. From a clinical standpoint, the environment was quiet, controlled, every sound accounted for, yet every person there heard the same thing. And here's what I've come to believe, after years in this work. Sometimes at the end of life, patients are not the only ones visited. Sometimes the family gets a glimpse too. For me it wasn't eerie, it wasn't threatening, it was tender, haunting, yes, but in the most human way possible. I've seen many deaths, and they don't all come with peace, but this one did. And I think the voice, whether you want to call it memory, spirit, or something our minds can't categorize, gave that family permission to let go. As a hospice nurse, I'm trained to manage symptoms, adjust medications, and document with precision. But there are no checkboxes for moments like that. No chart entry that captures the sound of a child's song, drifting into a room where a man is about to take his last breath. That family still tells the story to this day, and I do too, because it reminds me that while medicine explains much, it doesn't explain everything, and maybe it doesn't have to.